Our advanced clearing level betting strategy and other variations. At this point, you should have the firm grasp clearance learning ballot, mythology zone, impact changing variation components, clearance level betting to adjust the bankroll, playing acutum threshold, never tension. Now, I will introduce the various clearance level betting levels, implementing how to apply the varied series of losing bet levels. Making small bets into the zone. How can you keep the bets in small? Clearance level betting methodology still ends up the winner. For you, first we need to find the kind of the winner you are. Don't want to win slowly, please easily for 2 to 3 hours while still making the marginal profits, or do we want to get into the quicker profits? Do you want to win strictly multi-deck shows? Do you want preferably double and single deck play? There are valid important questions needed answers, so let's figure 5, 10, let's figure 10 and 1. Critical example of the possible betting strategy where you enter the clearance level of betting mode within while inside the zone. Concept of multiple clearance level of betting shows that up to at least losing L4 and W5 with L6 and W7. If we use the opportunity to recover the while limiting exposure, heating the repeated $5 loss bets outstanding outside of the zone, getting in within the zone. Going into clearance level betting level, losing, going back to a $5 minimum bet while still looking back and back to win. Since a situation, you should choose back-to-back clearance level betting, which ways is minimizing loss of the various percentage of clearance level betting bet structures allow you to minimize the continued exposure to large extended losses. Figure 10-1, I have been with the normal betting $8 from W3 to W2 with an exactly matched L2 bet with a maximum bet of the winning column. The L3 bet total is 12. L2 come up plus a maximum bet with a winning column with a non-profit to realize you now with the make of the current level of the bet of the L4, which is 110% of the previous losses. The model is designed to keep you from the exact pace with the loss for the W1 through WL3, relying on the wins to win the column of losing bet 4. Bet yielded profits will in the zone. Once you move past the losing bet 4, exit the zone, you go into the protection mode again with a minimum bet of $5 until you get to a win. Once you trigger it with a win, you try it again with a winning bet of 5 of the 80% clearance level of the betting with a double the win. Winning bet 5 loses, goes to bet losing 6. Try again at 80% clearance level of the betting. If you chance, you will still haven't got caught. You haven't got caught back to back. Win drop protection mode. You're gonna again bet 1 point. Losing 7 to win. Well, wait another win. This takes care of your bet. Losing winning bet 7 another 70 clearance level of betting is the loss of an encountered. If for that loss, you go back to the losing 7 until you achieve the back-to-back win cover of 70% of all losses. Let's do the same with the 160 hand run. See what happens in figure 10-2 with our goal with them pretty small with the bets. Well, since some of the profit comes from the wins and achieve the winning columns plus the losing bet 4 while still making our 18 to 20 unit profit goal with a reasonable time frame. The great thing about the model is that you experience back-to-back model outside the zone with the most likely you see the down is 20 to 30% losing bet as you start with the loss sequence. This is a nice comeback. We look at the clearance level of betting. You share with a lot of them on the baby. Take up the note that see them losing L4, the clearance level of bet 1. You are making 10% profit, 10% profit of the previous loss. When you see the wage W5 clearance level bet 2, but the repeating captured 80% of the both losses up to the point with the uncertainty great recovery scenario with the statistic of the runner shown figure 10-3. You know the highest bet have you ever had to make with $57 on a hand 90, which is really a very medium bet with the balance before you start the loss sequence and they end up with a win with a hand 90 was 103 ending balance. After the winning hand 5 clearance available bet 2 was 89. You fully recovered the balance of 105 to hand 98. Ain't life grand. If you can see running with the figure 10-2, but you'll see that you never had to make it any of the really high bets throughout the entire series from the start to the finish. Important statistics also become evident here. Chapter 9 of the average of clearance level of bets have the entire series was 3. The scenario will triple that amount. We made our goal 18 to 20 units with on hand in 58, approximately 30 minutes of the play. Consider this, if you're using 10 units, you would have made up to $200 in just around 30 minutes going over the goal 18 or to 20 units, not even thinking about going to full 80-minute play. Betting model is suited for each type of the 21 game. What betting is best suited for which type of the 21 game? Realistic, your best bet of the multi-deck plays or shoes with 4 to 8 decks. The strategy allows you to increment the bets onward slowly through the zone into the various stages of the current level of building, and the reason is that you will hit losing streaks of playing against the multi-deck configuration. The strategy shown in Figure 10.1 was well suited for the king deck configuration and play. You can make this strategy even more conservative with making the clearance level bet 1, but 100 instead of 110% instead of clearance level bet 2, down with a 70% to 80%. There are obviously all kinds of the parameter changes that could make the reciprocal. You could crank up these parameters more aggressively if you'd like. If you were to play a single and double deck configuration, I do find that you lose 5 hands in a row infrequently. The deck configuration is usually set at 50% penetration, leaving around 52 cards in play. If you play with a head-to-head against the dealer using an average of 5 to 6 cards per deal. If you have around 7 to 8 deals before each shuffle, is an average of only 2 to 3 wins per shuffle. The win-loss distribution, someone look like this, Clay's shuffle look like this: win, lose, win, lose, or lose, win, lose, win. And then we'll shuffle again: win, lose, win, lose, and so on. I believe certainly with the playing against the double, the single of the deck looks alike. The single of the deck having a little more with the shuffling going on. Looking at the type of the win and the loss distribution, certainly designed with a betting system that is well true for the maximum for your potential. If you have the $5 better, your betting instinct once would like to be something like routine sugar for 10-4. Pump up the bets a bit whether you're confident you will achieve at least once out of every 5 to 7 hands of play, but never forget, get out of off the table once your goal is achieved. Let's analyze the statistics in this one. Alright, we can see with the chart with indeed with the reach of the goal with the 41 and roughly 24 minutes of the play, with a note with the highest bet made with a hand 65 with the amount with a 688 that grows another method with a higher bet with the hour for the curve with the already made your goal. Pays to bet aggressively a single with the double the deck because you're not often in strength with a 7 and 8 loss with it in a row. But even if you did go far, you went in protection mode with the when leaving. Zone always protect with the external losses when they do occur because you are, and so as you will know at the unit minimum. Can you change the strategy midstream? I often access questions really an answer itself. No one knows what going on that happens at the table. For 10 minutes, you can go through 2 to 3 shoes about even with the house, meaning you will win. Your winning hands are hand evenly. And then all of a sudden, you can go from even the house starting to win 60 to 70% of all the hands. Well, all I have to do to make a couple of the small adjustments. Let's say you notice that the real result distribution the last couple of shoes looks something like lose, win, lose, win, lose, win, win, lose. So what do we have here? We find out that 26 hands with about 19% of the house wins. The rest, 81% of the course of the standard betting strategy already takes care of the side sliding, even going out with a losing 4 and a losing 5 bet. However, some of you may get a little nervous having to constantly extend yourself out of the 5 or losing bet every time you just get one win. I understand it can be a little aggravating, but don't get emotional, get smart. What happens when the cards, if you can see the trending occur with a consistent base that makes adjustment, every shoe goes in its own personality. For a few shuffle, the small player recognize the change with adjust accordingly. If I saw something like this situation occur, I would probably extend my little initial low dollar value bets and an extra step to stop the base bet from getting so high when I got going into stage 2 clearance level of betting. The recovery bets that don't automatically get so high either. Please look at the adjusted strategy in Figure 10.6. Alright, as you can see, you really lightened and extended your small bets with initial loss of the right from loser bet, lost bet 4 from 5 to 15. Kept all the win column bets at 5 and go from the total of the recapture all losses plus profit of the losing bet 5 with a 110% clearance level bet. If you still lose, then go for another $90% clearance level bet at L6. If you lose at L6, then drop to L7 with an 80% clearance losing bet. which ensures you do get back the back when you recapture most of the wagers right there. Now, if you lose again, drop into the protection mode within the $5 bet, keeping the betting at the loser L8 until you see the win. Go to win W6 for another 80% clearance level of betting. If you still don't win, go back and do 80% clearance level of betting at 7. At loser 7. Again, looking for the back-to-back win. There's still no way. We can go to loser 8 with the protection mode again. You want to look back to winner 6 in every phase of the over again over the course of any of the point that you experience. We're going to immediately go back to bet win 1. Start with a new sequence. The entire process is better to understand whether the chart runs out. So here to the 75 bets or so here where they have from figure 10-7. Alright, the objective of the batting strategy of this course with the same with an inordinate amount of the losses still stay with a hunt with a bankroll that doesn't get by the bad demolished for the sayers loss of the wood just discover to demonstrate how the clearance level of the betting mythology can really save with your hide when the card goes sour. Let's look at the statistic for the short runs of the losses within the figure 10-8. Notice you never run your goal, but it's bad. In this case, you need to be thankful that you excited this bloody battlefield with the life and a bankroll still intact. As figure 10-8 showed that it suffered more than 2-1 losses versus wins and still ended up with normal marginal profit. The wins and losses of the push as a percentage of the bottom of the figure. Do you think maybe there's something in the clearance level of betting stuff that you bet there? There is. An added bonus, you never had to make up a bet higher than $57 on a hand at 6, and it was just medium recovery bet. Of course, I certainly do not recommend you stay with a 75 hand, but endure something like this. Once you recognize you're losing more than winning, then you can use the strategy either to get even quickly or minimize your losses until you decide to get out. Such an hand will have the figure 10-8. I would have recommended with this condition with the around hand 25 and quit. I had been satisfied with a $13 loss. Now I'm a clairvoyant. I've played enough of shoes to know when it's better to just have saved myself the aggravation, find another table to table this off with a better winning ratio opportunity. The example of clear show that I've said with the earlier chapter, see what the shoe they're doing, but by sitting down and you will save yourself a lot of aggravation. You're looking over the head-to-head game. This is the more moot point. If you happen to just see one person on the table, things look good, and by all means take a seat and give it a try. Alright, the takedown strategy. Blackjack is around for so long, so many supposed systems have been developed that enable the folks to overcome the game, and any of the systems are viable to myself to look upon with the clearance level of the budgeting method has more strategy than system. System implies one discover the solution to the problem that will work every time, whereas the strategy is more tactical method, the greater toward the problem's resolution of the given situation, but it's not a guarantee of resolution. In my opinion, the best anyone can do is stick with whatever strategy he or she would like to use, but not deviate and make adjustments for the necessary. Sticking with the mainstream of the method as you play ensues. For example, let's say with a doubling hand with an ease with a high card, with the counting of the high card of the two player, the head of the hits their hand with the high cards, and strategy here is using all allows you to double. Then maybe you shouldn't this time. Just hit, make on-fly adjustments, and pay. It can really save you in these situations. A popular method used with many of the full capitalize with the subsequent repeated wins with the keep loss with the unit minimum call with many of the names by the most folks I know with the call with the profit to takedown with the takedown method. The strategy is shown figure 10-9. As you can see, they increase your bet by 50% for each win you achieve with the taking down 50% of your profit. If you do these 3 times in a row, you regress to the original bet. At a point you lose, you will stay with the $10 until the win is achieved. Then you get back to the W win 1, which is just a simple belief. Keep in mind that the strategy works best when you're beginning better than ever, even distribution winning hands will carve you up if the cards in start favor over the house, because there's no recovery component for the strategy other than just betting the unit minimum. Therefore, if you were to step up and bet bigger after each of the 2 wins, then lost 3 or 4 in a row, you would slowly dig yourself a nice money hole in which you could keep getting deeper and deeper. You never climb out of it. You can clearly see with the strategy, mean with the favorite mania of the professional out of it, because you would increase the bet with the only well the move, the degree of the table, the minimum when you're losing. In my opinion, just fine as long as the cards are favoring in your player. But of course, but it usually is not the case for the exception. Exceptions for the strategy is to begin pulling back any of the rapport out of the during the winning series, and it's important to understand that the probabilities laid out in Figure 10.9 because you're not going to win indefinitely. Same point during the winning of the series, you have to bring some of the profit to making lower bet for the just about playing. Simply you can adjust the strategy in any way that they want. You can stretch out with the winning sequence once more, but you can even couple losing exponents on the low side, and instead of just betting the base unit of the $10 after each consecutive loss of your choice of the course. But one thing is very true for the gambling, specifically in the casino industry, that is the house fears only one thing: a player who isn't afraid to fully press for the partially press his bet is winning. What does the rest of the bet, meaning what it takes all of the winnings and let it ride possibly in 2 to 3 times in a row. $50 to $100 better can really hurt a smaller casino, but several winning series in a row of the player hands getting hot, meaning the player is winning 4 out of 5 hands consistently. This is the way to go. It might look something like this: a $25 better partially pressing on the base of the bet of $25 or out of 2 or 3 or more hands, then pulling back the base to the bet of $25 again, and the back to base bet is BBB. Win 55, win 38, win 57, the back to base bet. Win 57, double down 25, win 38, lose 57, the back to base bet. Win 25, lose 38, win 25, win 38, lose 57, then win split 57, then back to base bet. Win 25, win 38, win 57, then win double down 57, back to base bet. And it shows several other examples of that. So how does the player translate into dollars? About $726 in 10 minutes with 25 hands of play. That is not bad. Notice that the pressing of the bet with extending out only the 3 wins include the double downs, the splits, and then sequences started over. If you're using 100 units, you would be having around $2,900 and so on. They're very substantial winning games. A 20 game of 21 because game of 21 because they're a pretty even game. The house against the player with only a slight edge going in the house. This method is very effective when streaking in progress, but will kill you if the win-loss sequence begins to chop like this. Win 25, loss 50, win 25, loss 50. You get the idea. Every time you win with the press of the bet with the $50, you lose, meaning you lose every other hand, and going into the negative 25 happens when it does need to change up the likely take the table really fast, addressing second hand with a possibility reduce the hand, but you're playing 2. Wait for another player to join and leave the table to pay attention to what you're doing, what happens, and adjusting your betting strategy with the fly on if you will have, but do not let yourself get hammered. Do not nothing like this most of the folks do. You method you want to conservatively maximize short sets of wins, hedge with your bets, and increasing them slightly, yet taking profits back in a limited way. All in all, we use the method you should always use. Always end up profit situation, small weird series of wins. And note with a caution, typically with the strategy tells you to double down, just take it a hit instead, because if you double down or split, lose, you jeopardize the additional winnings you've occurred. We're going to borrow it again. All right. Accumulated during the series get wiped out. Believe it or not, some of the folks get on the winning streak believe that they're invincible to just them with the bearing themselves with the after with the 7 of the ton. Having another straw to the illustrate with the scenario never to do long when I went into the local casino offered the double of that game with the average rule of the doubling allowed only over the 9, 10, and 11. The dealer hit South 17. I met up with the old acquaintance. Was at the table that he looked like he was doing okay. He had about 160 chips. I watched he was walking straight to pick a figure 10-9. He was kicking the house behind. He was certainly winning at any average of 7 out of 10 hands. They were dispersed perfectly so that when he lost a hand, he would lose 2 in a row at a bet minimum. When he started winning, he'd win 3 or 5 hands in a row with it even doubling and splitting to the third winning bet, which, if you recall, I don't recommend was even winning those. I asked him the buy-in was. He said $80, and again, I recommended even start without $40, and I did not even recommend even starting out with $40 at times X session money that he's never looked back from the bet number 1. He said, I'm using the takedown, I'm kicking him sideways and front ways. I was very excited from him. I stayed and watched about 40 minutes while clobbered in the house. During the time he had taken the original $80 to about $1,250. Whoa, he has literally killed the house with a minimum bankroll and trusted me that it was very rarely happens. You might be waiting for an I told you so ending, but there actually isn't one. The composition of the cards always goes south for him and did as well. However, he realized the change in the small series, the loss of the losing only $75 when he knew that the party was over. He classically success story because he was paying attention to the composition of the shoe, the double deck, and the casino was dealt for the shoe, making necessary adjustments along the way with the final pulling out with the composition totally changed in this act alone allows me to pay with the highest calculated of all. He executed the total control discipline, kept his head, knew the odds, got the heck out of the casino, made money. Having said that, I have also witnessed many folks use the method making 200%, 300% of their money back in a quick time and then betting the straight loss of the watching everything they just made wipe out. Reinforcement my statement that when you reach the goal, play for the profit, lock up, and continue adding to lock up the money if you're winning. Whenever you cover the bet, starting and losing this inch of the victory each of them every time. Winning consistently, but now you must be thinking, how can I ensure that you that whether winning consistently, even the method presented with us for over the entire purpose of this page is to assist you playing with the game without counting cover. That my firm belief that you can win most of the time, even in these methods, especially clearance level betting methods, because I win most of the time I got out in the play. I actually win more than I ever did win more than I ever did counting cards. You can also hedge your strategies by employing some of the casual counting during the game. This is called explained in Chapter 12, so whether you can casual count, use trade card counting method, or never forget the probabilities of the winning and losing. Consecutive hands still exist, the zone still exists. The key to understand advantage strategies is discussed in this chapter. Taylor 1 with the first knee with the threshold with the nervous tension. Remember, the gambling is strict in the sense that there's no guarantees, although I wish you could say that there were. Best security the gambler can ever hope for that comes from the good discipline, knowing the odds, using some of the sort of the playing betting methods to understand that winning most of the time comes slowly. Just to stick with it, setting your goal with a session and probability of the most critical decision you must make, and again before you enter the casino. Chapter 11, what is the house edge?